Part 42. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 411. As an idol, Huahua's past image in people's minds can be described in a few words. The most skilled singer in the entertainment industry. Therefore, he has been nicknamed a mage by many netizens, and his feminine image has been ridiculed by many netizens. However, now when he actually started working as a mage, everyone discovered that he was indeed the material. Holding the yellow talisman given by Yang Lin in his left hand and the peachwood sword given by Yang Lin in his right hand, he chased after the strange black shadow without fear at all. After a while, his back disappeared around the corner of the stairs. Seeing this scene, the staff of the program team were also a little confused. Are we going to catch up? Catch up? I think it's actually quite unsafe for us here now. You have a point. After some negotiation, the program team hurriedly took the shooting equipment and ran all the way, for fear that they would be left behind. When they followed Huahua all the way downstairs, they soon arrived at the fourth floor. Huahua also took the lead and broke into a corner on the fourth floor. When everyone arrived, they discovered that the corner he entered was the women's restroom on this floor. Thinking of the rumors they just heard, everyone immediately felt that something was wrong. They can almost conclude that the black shadow that Huahua was chasing just now is the obsession left by the girl who was killed 8 years ago. What happened next also verified their guess. In the women's restroom, Huahua, holding a mahogany sword, was looking ahead with a serious face. Since there is no sunlight and no lighting inside, it is pitch black. But this did not prevent him from seeing the figure standing in the corner. It was a woman wearing a long skirt. She has a slender figure and white skin. Although most of her face was obscured by her long hair, she could still tell that she was very beautiful. But such a beautiful figure makes people feel creepy. So when everyone from the program team followed, their first reaction was to be shocked. And the boy who invited them over turned pale immediately after seeing that figure. It's her, she's been following me. After hearing the boy's words, everyone's eyes immediately glanced at the figure in the corner again. I thought she would attack everyone like the ghost in the movie, but that was not the case. She stood quietly in the corner like a plastic dummy, even her eyes did not change. Even so, everyone still felt uncomfortable. Even the viewers in the live broadcast room are like this. 666, Yang Lin also said that there are no ghosts in this world. This is not a ghost. That is to say, I saw it all. By the way, ordinary people can see this. How strong this girl's obsession is. A young girl was supposed to have a bright future, but she was violated, killed, and left in the toilet by a scumbag. It has been a full 8 years since the murderer was found. If it were you, your obsession would be too strong. It makes sense. I think she may have developed an obsession because she didn't catch the murderer. Then why no one saw her before, and she didn't show up until that little brother showed up? I don't know. This show is really getting more and more exciting, and now it's starting to take on a supernatural tone. I'm scared and want to see it. If only Huahua could help her. While everyone in the live broadcast room was talking a lot, Huahua in the women's restroom also noticed something was wrong. Looking at the motionless girl in front of him, he suddenly said, "This young lady, did you bring me here to tell me something? I know that you suffered a lot of injustice during your lifetime. If possible, I hope you can tell me what happened that year. I will definitely help you find the murderer who killed you." Perhaps Huahua's words touched the girl, and her originally lowered head finally lifted up. The next second, with Huahua's confused eyes, the girl pointed at the boy hiding at the back. After being pointed out like this by a girl, the boy immediately panicked. "Senior, I don't know you either. What do you want me to do? I was only 10 years old 8 years ago. If you accuse me like this, they will misunderstand me." His eyes were instantly filled with hatred. However, his words did not dispel everyone's doubts, and a program staff member immediately looked at him with scrutiny. Because he knew that his guess was right, and he successfully helped the girl who was killed 8 years ago find her murderer. As soon as she asked, the girl nodded. Moreover, when he checked the post earlier, he also remembered the name of the victim girl, who was Lin Lu. Especially what you did on the day you met him, such as whether you picked up or bought anything, or met anyone special. I tried my best to recall what I had done these days. After being pointed at by the girl and looked at with distrustful eyes by everyone, the boy immediately panicked. It's a book about philosophy, and it's out of print now. Little sister, did you write this word? Finally, a foreign language book as thick as a brick was dug out. Or is it that the murderer of this young lady has something to do with you? If I had to say anything, it would be that I bought an old book in the back street of our school. Seeing the book, Huawa immediately took it from his hand and walked to the girl. The sudden change did not scare Huawa, but instead made him feel relieved. I wish Senior Johao a bright future, presented by Lin Lu, June 3, 2015. Yes, you are not the murderer, but the murderer may be someone you know. Think about it again. After getting the exact answer, Huawa also made a bold guess. In order to find out, he quickly opened the book and started reading page by page. Look, do you recognize this book? Huawa also reminded her loudly at this time. The date above is also similar to the date the girl was killed. What no one expected was that as soon as Huawa put the book in front of the girl suddenly raised her head. As soon as these words came out, the boy seemed to be awakened. With just one glance at Huawa, he was able to conclude that the word was written by a girl. Miss, let me ask you one last question. The Senior Johao above should be the murderer who killed you. Visible streaks of black resentment also emanated from the girl's obsessive body. Finally, I found a line of Zhengzhou font on the title page of this book. Seeing this scene, Huawa was basically certain that this book was related to the girl's death. Hurry up and recall everything you have done recently, or we will call the police and ask the police to use the great memory recovery technique on you. Her originally normal eyes turned blood red. Is there something you are hiding from us? As he spoke, he immediately dug into his backpack. But in order to confirm this, he finally asked again. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the women's restroom suddenly felt that the temperature had dropped several degrees. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 412. Although the girl didn't open her mouth, the resentment that was about to take shape around her could not be deceived. Not only Huawa, but everyone present and the audience in the live broadcast room also guessed this. I'll go, this will work too. If nothing else, Senior Johao should be the murderer who killed this senior. Needless to say, I finally know why my senior sister's obsession only singled out this unlucky guy. This incident tells us not to buy second-hand things casually on the street in the future. Because it's very likely that it was used by a dead person, and it might get you into big trouble. I was so scared that I quickly threw away the second-hand furniture I bought above the smelly fish. Then wouldn't my second-hand car be more dangerous? What if there is a soul ring on it? This is probably God's arrangement. If this young man hadn't bought the book that the senior had given away, nothing would have happened later. So, you still have to believe in the existence of retribution. Then again, since we are acquaintances, why would Senior Johao do such a vicious thing? Then it's up to Huawa to continue digging. At this moment, everyone no longer felt afraid. While Huawa herself felt angry, she did not forget to continue asking. This young lady, can't you speak? Well, let me ask you the answer. If it's yes, just nod. If it's no, just shake your head. As soon as he finished speaking, the girl in the corner nodded. Then are you, Senior Joe how, a couple. Hearing Huahua's question, the girl immediately shook her head. If they're not a couple, they should be just ordinary friends. I'll take a bold guess. Did he think that he and you were in a relationship, so he got entangled with you? After knowing that you had no intention of him, he wanted to use force. In the end, he was afraid that the matter would be exposed, so he killed you. And he should have graduated from school, so he was not found when we checked the DNA of all the boys. Am I right? At this moment, Huahua seemed to be possessed by Sherlock Holmes, deducing everything clearly. The girl immediately nodded her head after hearing his reasoning. Upon seeing this, everyone present and the audience in the live broadcast room were instantly in an uproar. I went, and Huahua guessed it right again. What happened to him today has completely changed his impression in my mind. Is this still the same Huahua who went crazy on the stage? I must have been affected after staying with Yang Lin for a few days. It's like a true mage. So that senior is just a beast. Others just gave him a book out of friendship, and he mistakenly thought that they were interested in him. So don't express your kindness to others casually, even beggars on the roadside. I guess he is also a typical narcissistic personality. He cannot accept that others don't like him, so he wants to forcefully prove it. And I have graduated. I will probably be proud of myself for completing a perfect crime later. Hurry up and call the police and arrest him. Just when everyone was filled with indignation, Huahua also decisively called the police. After explaining the situation in detail, he also provided the name of the murderer and his attendance at Luteng City University of Science and Technology. The police also paid great attention to it after learning that this was an unsolved case 8 years ago. A task force was immediately set up. He also retrieved the school's files and found the matching person in less than half an hour. With just a simple DNA comparison, the other party confessed on the spot. It can be said to be quite fast. During this process, Huahua and others have always stayed in this old building. When they learned through the police that the real murderer had been arrested, they immediately cheered. Great, the real murderer has finally been caught. I knew there was reincarnation in the way of heaven. Such a beast should be shot. We have done something big this time. Yes, otherwise the senior's obsession will probably continue forever. This is also thanks to Huahua. After saying that, everyone turned their attention to Huahua. At this moment, Huahua also felt an unprecedented sense of accomplishment. This is far from what he can achieve when he is a star and holds a concert. But he still vaguely felt that something was missing. Especially when they saw the obsession of the senior sister in the corner. He suddenly had an urge to do something for her. Thinking of this, he casually rummaged through the cloth bag Yang Lin gave him, and finally found a scripture about the past life. This young lady, your murderer has been arrested. I hope you can completely let go of your obsessions and enter the paradise as soon as possible. As he spoke, he opened the scripture in his hand amidst the astonished eyes of everyone. Then he started chanting in front of everyone. At that time, the suffering God, who was all over the realms of the 10 directions, always used his majestic power to save all sentient beings and free them from their lost ways. All sentient beings were unaware, just like seeing the sun and the moon blindly. In his unique voice, a Taoist scripture, the mysterious Sutra of Tai's Hang Cave Xian Ling Bao Saves Suffering, sounded in this old building. Compared to how he screamed and shouted on the stage, he looked particularly solemn at this moment. The serious scriptures were actually recited by him with a different charm. It really feels a bit like a Taoist master. While he was reciting the scriptures, a mysterious force came to the girl. The visible resentment on her body began to melt away. Then her disheveled appearance became sunny again. Eventually she turned into a bookish girl. There was also a smile on her originally scary face. Seeing this scene, everyone was somewhat dumbfounded. It was only then that they realized what Huahua was doing. Oh my God, Huahua has saved her. Needless to say, her last obsession with this world should be completely eliminated now. I hope she can really have an afterlife. Taoist priest is indeed a profession that can warm people's hearts. Welcoming death is the aura of this profession. I feel like everything is under Yang Lin's control. He seems to have calculated exactly what Hua will do and has prepared everything in advance. While everyone was expressing their emotions, the girl named Lin Lu also waved in the direction of everyone. In the next second, her whole body turned into dots of stars and disappeared from this world. Only then did Hua stop chanting. There was also a hint of new understanding on his face. At this moment, he even had the urge to give up his identity as an artist. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 413. As Hua successfully transcended the obsession of the victim girl, everyone breathed a long sigh of relief. The boy from before was even more excited. Great, I can finally have a good night's sleep. Taoist priest, thank you very much. While he was talking, he seemed to suddenly notice that Hua looked familiar. After looking at it carefully several times, a look of realization finally appeared on his face. Oh! I recognize you, aren't you the singing star? I almost didn't recognize you now that you were wearing normal clothes. By the way, I really like a song you sang. What's the name of that song? What's it called? After thinking for a long time, he couldn't think of anything Hua sang. Fortunately, Hua didn't care about this. After putting the peachwood sword and scriptures in his hands back into the bag, he led several people from the program team away without looking back. What happened this time gave him great confidence and made him more interested in Taoism. Now he just wants to return to the Taoist temple on the mountain as soon as possible. At the same time, Yang Lin, who was in the Taoist temple on the other side, seemed to sense what was happening on his side, and a smile appeared on his lips. The reason why he is willing to give advice to these people is naturally not out of boredom. On the one hand, he wants to use these people to expand his influence, and then search for the power of faith, so as to enhance the power of his priesthood. On the other hand, they want to leave their own legacy in this world. One day he ascends to the upper realm, and at least the Taoism can still remain. Now it seems that they have obviously had their thoughts on it. Thinking of this, he looked towards the bustling hall beside him. Passed from one word to another, the reputation of Yang Zumiao has spread throughout Lilton. Many believers even came from hundreds of kilometers away. In just one day, he had accumulated a lot of power of faith, and the divine radiance on his body became stronger and stronger. The authority of the gods alone is comparable to that of practitioners in the real realm. And his ultimate goal is to also elevate his divine authority to an existence equivalent to the peak of the Yang God realm. Just when he was focusing on his own changes, an elderly couple walked in. After arriving in front of the statue, without saying anything, they just banged their heads a few times, and then started to burn incense. The strange behavior of the two people immediately attracted everyone's attention. It just so happened that it was Xiao Yueyu's turn to take charge at this moment. So Yang Lin also winked at him, and Xiao Yueyu immediately took the initiative to greet him. "Two old men, don't you know what you want?" After hearing Xiao Yueyu's words and seeing him in Taoist robes, the old couple immediately seemed to have seen a savior. "Taoist priest, we are here to ask for help from the Immortal Master." "Yes, the Immortal Master must help us. If we don't help us, we won't be able to survive." As soon as these words came out, Xiao Yueyu's sense of justice immediately exploded. "Uncle, aunt, if you encounter any difficulties, just tell me. If someone is bullying you, just tell me." From his point of view, if the old man and his wife were in such a difficult situation that they had to pray to the gods for help, they must have encountered a huge difficulty. And it's something that can't be solved by ordinary methods. But what the uncle and aunt said next made him stunned on the spot. It's not a bad person, it's a wild boar. It's a wild boar that ran into our land. They come here every 3 days and destroy all the crops they planted. If this continues, there will be no harvest in the fields this year. We, an old couple with no children, are counting on those pieces of land. As they spoke, the two began to wipe away tears. After listening to their story, Xiao Yuyu was a little confused. He thought of 10,000 possibilities, but he never thought of this one. He couldn't help but look at Yang Lin aside. Master, do gods still want to help solve this kind of thing? Hearing this, Yang Lin just smiled. Oh my god, it feels like a police station, everything has to be taken care of. But wouldn't it be enough to contact the police station or forestry bureau for this matter? When Xiao Yuyu asked this question, the old couple immediately explained again. We looked for it, but the forestry bureau said that area was originally a mountain and was the normal range of wild boars. Moreover, the wild boars in that area had not yet reached the target that needed to be cleaned up, so they couldn't control it. The next second, his eyes looked at Yang Lin again, seeming to ask if he wanted to help. Some yellow symbols can also be vaguely seen inside. Wild boars are generally active at night, and you may not be able to find them during the day. Ah! After receiving a reasonable explanation, Xiao Yuyu also showed a hint of enlightenment. So you'd better follow the uncle and aunt to their village now. It's just a wild boar. It's always easier to deal with than a ghost. Okay, I'll leave it to you. It'll be fine when it grows up. The next second he caught a tiger cub the size of a house cat. Hearing Xiao Yuiyu's words, everyone else present nodded. However, he did not give up there, but shamelessly said to Yang Lin. That's natural. Come on, take this bag and open it when you encounter a wild boar. That's it, then I understand. Yang Lin nodded this time. What he didn't notice was that when Yang Lin said that just now, he wasn't talking to him, but to the little tiger on his shoulder. Go ahead, I'll leave this matter to you. Master, please don't do this. It's only so small. Don't be trampled to death by the wild boar. Although Xiao Yuiyu is not thin, he has no advantage at all when facing a wild boar weighing more than 200 to 300 kilograms. If he really encounters him head-on, he might be knocked away by the wild boar. Hearing these words, Xiao Yuiyu looked at the cat cub-sized tiger in Yang Lin's hand again, and a look of confusion suddenly appeared on his face. As he spoke, Yang Lin showed an I believe you look. Master, you have given Huahua so many things to protect her, why don't you give me some too? After all, what Yang Lin said was very reasonable. Wild boars were indeed easier to deal with than ghosts. With a hint of embarrassment, he first glanced outside, then said with a naive smile. But as soon as he finished speaking, Yang Lin shook his head. Seeing this, Xiao Yuiyu could only smile helplessly. Bring this with you too. We heard that it is more effective here, so we want the immortal master to help. Master, it's already getting so late now, why don't we wait until it's daytime tomorrow? As soon as these words came out, Xiao Yuiyu could only nod helplessly. Otherwise, how can I be a match for the wild boar? However, Yang Lin ignored his words and directly put the little tiger on his shoulder. It seemed that he didn't expect that Yang Lin would give him such a difficult task, and Xiao Yuiyu was a little confused for a moment. As he spoke, Yang Lin handed Xiao Yuiyu a colorful cloth bag of the same style. After waiting for this, Yang Lin suddenly took something out of his sleeves. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 414. As time went by, the sky gradually became darker. Xiao Yuiyu, who had a grimace on his face, and several staff members of the program team were following the previous pair of uncles and aunts as they walked down the pagoda mountain. It took nearly an hour to finally arrive at a place called Kegsa village. Looking around the village, there are nothing but mountains. If there were not a cement road, it would be difficult for ordinary people to get in. Although it was only around 7 o'clock in the evening, there were already very few lights left in the village. Apparently there aren't many young people in this village. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yuiyu basically understood why the old couple went to the mountain to worship the gods. Because I was really forced to do nothing. Originally, the uncle and aunt wanted to take Xiao Yuiyu and others to the house for a drink of water, but in order not to waste too much time, Xiao Yuiyu said directly. Uncle and aunt, why don't you take us directly to your field? Let's see what's going on with those wild boars before it's too late. Hearing Xiao Yuiyu's words, the uncle nodded quickly, and then led a few people towards a nearby mountain. After crossing a small river, several fields on the hillside appeared in front of everyone. Due to seasonal reasons, these fields are now planted with food crops such as sweet potatoes, corn, and peanuts. The area is not large, only about 2 or 3 acres. It can be seen from this that what is grown in these fields is the rations of uncles and aunts. It must have taken a lot of effort when the land was first reclaimed. However, in such a field, big holes were dug out everywhere, and even the field ridges were damaged. Large tracts of corn and sweet potatoes were trampled, and the loss was close to 1/3. If I come here a few more times, I'm afraid it will be like what my uncle and aunt said. Xiao Yuiyu, who grew up in a rural area, immediately felt empathy. These wild boars really want to stay in the mountains, but they have to come down and waste food. It's not easy for my uncle and aunt to grow a little food. When I catch you, I will teach you a lesson. As he spoke, he searched for traces of wild boars on the ground. Soon he found several huge footprints. The cameraman also gave a close-up at this moment. Xiao Yuiyu made a gesture and realized that the wild boar's footprints were almost half the size of his palm. And judging from the degree of dispersion, it was obvious that there was more than just one wild boar. It's more like a big family wild boar coming out for team building. Realizing this, his expression immediately changed slightly. Ahem, these wild boars were actually forced to do so. It was probably because there was not enough food on the mountain, so they ran down the mountain to cause harm to the uncle and aunt. Wild boars' life is also life, so we'd better focus on driving them away, what do you think? As he said that, he turned his attention to several staff members of the program team. And these staff members were obviously a little scared. I think what teacher you said makes sense. Yes, that's right. You can get a repelling device next to it. Whenever a wild boar comes, it will alarm and scare the wild boars away through the sound. You can connect the power grid. The wild boar will learn to behave after being electrocuted once. Let the dummy go, use the dummy to scare them. You thought it was a bird. How could a dummy scare a wild boar? I think we can set off firecrackers in iron barrels, so that the sound of the firecrackers exploding will scare away these wild boars immediately. For a while, several members of the program team also used their brains to come up with various solutions. However, the viewers in the live broadcast room were dismissive of this. One look at them and they knew that they had never seen a real wild boar. Today's wild boars are very bold, and the methods they mentioned are not reliable at all. That is to say, if the wild boars can be scared away, there will be no headaches due to the proliferation of wild boars across the country. And these wild boars will only do it once. If they do it once, they won't believe it the second time. Just when Xiao Yuiyu and the others were desperately thinking of a solution, the little tiger who had been sleeping on his shoulders suddenly became nervous. What they didn't notice was that just as Xiao Yuiyu rushed towards the wild boars, a yellow talisman he was carrying began to burn. It seemed like something was jumping around in the grass. They didn't react until a huge black shadow jumped out of the grass. They didn't expect Xiao Yuyu to have such courage when facing 5 wild boars. The low shrubs fell down quickly and got closer and closer to them. Obviously, the melon eaters in the live broadcast room are just watching the fun and don't take it too seriously. For farmers like them, food is everything. Even when they turned on the flashlight, it didn't work. Don't let us look down on you, and don't let Yang Lin's people be disgraced. Look over there, is there something coming? Stop looking and run. Tears were already welling up in their eyes. A pair of ears kept moving, and his eyes were looking in one direction. Seeing this situation, a few people didn't dare to stay longer. They turned around and prepared to run to higher ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my God, there are 5 wild boars, and they are all adults. In such a short period of time, the place where the noise came from was only about 50 meters away from them. Unconscious drops of cold sweat appeared on their foreheads. The 5 little wild boars were like 5 little tanks, running rampant in the field without paying attention to a few people. And their appearance deeply hurt Xiao Yuiyu's heart. But when Xiao Yuiyu turned around, he saw the old couple looking at the food that had been ruined by wild boars with distressed faces. After hearing his words, several people quickly looked over. Noticing this, Xiao Yuiyu couldn't help but become more vigilant. At this time, he also discovered bursts of noise on a hillside about 100 meters away from him. The power grid is even more nonsense. If the wild boar is not electrified, it will be even more troublesome if it electrifies people. This scene also stunned the program crew and the audience on the spot. Now, seeing their food being destroyed by wild boars is more uncomfortable for them than killing them. After reacting, several people simply did not have the courage to face it head-on. So the best way is to confront the wild boars head-on. If you scare the wild boars, they won't dare to do it anymore. Pointing to the abnormal place, Xiao Yuiyu laughed and said to the people on the side of the program team. His heart immediately rose to his throat. Holy crap! Wild boar, such a big wild boar, it must weigh at least 300 kilograms. Come on, Xiao Yuiyu, Huahua can even handle the female ghosts over there, but you can't even handle a few wild boars here, right? He was about to run away, but he picked up a stick as thick as a teacup from the side, and then rushed towards the wild boar. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 415. In the mountain village and wild fields, the moonlight was dim. Under such circumstances, 5 huge wild boars were running rampant in the fields. A normal person would be scared to shit. Even the program crew immediately found a higher ground, fearing that the wild boars would rush towards them. Under such circumstances, Xiao Yuiyu, who was dressed in Taoist robes, was like a retrograde warrior, carrying a large piece of wood and rushing towards the wild boars. His move immediately attracted the attention of the program staff and the audience in the live broadcast room. Teacher Yu, come back quickly, don't rush in. Yes, Teacher Yu, those wild boars are not even afraid of guns. You are going to die if you go up there. Come back soon. It's over, he will probably be knocked away by a wild boar soon. What's the difference between being hit by these wild boars and being hit by a car? Why did he become so impulsive all of a sudden? I guess it was after seeing the uncle and aunt next to me. I'm convinced, I'm completely convinced. I didn't expect that Xiao Yuiyu is the real tough guy. A tough guy is a tough guy, but this and the wild boar's confrontational behavior are really unwise. Look, he has already rushed in front of those wild boars. Just when everyone couldn't help but scream in surprise, Xiao Yuiyu, carrying a thick wooden stick, had already rushed in front of a wild boar. At this moment, an unexpected force suddenly poured into his body. This power not only eliminated the fear in his heart, but also filled his body with strength. Although he was a little surprised, he didn't have time to think too much. Because at this moment, a large wild boar that was munching sweet potatoes also discovered him as an unexpected intruder. The big wild boar showed a vigilant look in its eyes. The next second it lowered its head suddenly, and the two hooves behind it dug hard on the ground twice. This posture also means that it is about to attack. In the horrified eyes of everyone, this big wild boar weighing 300 kilograms rushed towards Xiao Yuyu in a savage charging manner. The speed was so fast that ordinary people would never be able to react, let alone someone with a fat body like Xiao Yuyu. However, to everyone's surprise, just when the wild boar was about to hit Xiao Yuyu suddenly changed his body. The wild boar narrowly missed him. And that's not all, Xiao Yuyu even took advantage of the big wild boar to rush past him, raised the wooden stick in his hand and gave it a hard blow. As if with tremendous force, the stick knocked the wild boar to the ground on the spot. There were constant painful groans coming from his mouth. I want to stand up again, but I still can't. After a closer look, I discovered that the back of this big wild boar had obvious signs of curvature. Apparently Xiao Yuiyu's stick just broke the wild boar's spine. Such an exaggerated scene not only shocked everyone present, but also the audience in the live broadcast room were all shocked and speechless. Especially when the cameraman freezes the picture on the heroic image of Xiao Yuiyu holding a thick wooden stick. Good guy, is this still Xiao Yuiyu? Why has he become so fierce all of a sudden? Yeah, it's so powerful. In the situation just like that, not only could I avoid the wild boar's attack, but I could also take the opportunity to launch an attack and knock the wild boar down with one blow. This kind of reaction speed and such strength of attack are probably beyond the reach of ordinary martial arts practitioners. Not to mention just one person, even 4 or 5 grown men might not be able to overturn a wild boar. Xiao Yuiyu is so awesome. How did he do it? Could it be that the fat on his body is actually fat muscle? It's hard to imagine how full of muscles he looks under his robe. Just when everyone was shocked by Xiao Yuiyu's hand just now, Xiao Yuiyu himself looked at the wild boar that fell in front of him with disbelief. It seemed like he couldn't believe that he had done this. Am I really that fierce? It's impossible. Wait a minute, this feeling is the same as the last time on the bus. Could it be that Yang Lin is helping me secretly? Thinking of this, he quickly put his hand into the backpack beside him and touched it, and finally took out a handful of black ash. Now he was even more sure. It's true. Now that I have been given divine power, why am I still afraid of these wild boars? Come on, let me teach you a lesson. As he spoke, Xiao Yuiyu's face showed excitement. He even tore off his Taoist robe, revealing a body of extremely strong tendons. The exaggerated muscle shape once again surprised everyone. In their impression, Xiao Yuiyu has always been a fat man with a little humor. But now he has become a muscular man. This contrast is too strong. But before anyone could react, Xiao Yuiyu, holding a thick wooden stick, rushed into the pigs. The wooden stick weighing tens of kilograms was danced like a tiger in his hand. The wild boars may have felt threatened and started running away on the spot. But Xiao Yuiyu was not willing to let them go, so he pounced on the big one. With a big hand, he pinned the wild boar to the ground. No matter how hard the wild boar struggled, he would not let go. In the process, his fists the size of casseroles kept hitting the wild boar. He didn't let go of the wild boar, which was foaming at the mouth, until he beat it down completely. Haha, you wild boars are unlucky to meet me. Come again. After a loud shout, the shirtless Xiao Yuiyu chased a wild boar again. After catching up with one, he directly lifted the 300-pound wild boar high into the air and threw it into the forest. This left only the last 2 large wild boars that were forced into a corner. Looking at the big wild boar that kept retreating, Xiao Yuiyu couldn't help but reveal a ferocious smile on his face. Hey, you two are going to suffer a lot this time. Let's see if you dare to waste other people's food in the future. As he spoke, he geared up and prepared to step forward. But at this moment, a feeling of weakness suddenly came from inside the body. In an instant, it was as if the huge force in his body had been taken away by someone. Furthermore, the bulging muscles on his body began to shrink rapidly, as if someone had deflated them. In less than 5 seconds, he changed from the muscular man to a fat man with a beer belly. Seeing his own changes, Xiao Yuyu was immediately dumbfounded. "Let me go, what is going on? No one told me that there is a time limit for divine possession. If I had known, I wouldn't have pretended." While feeling anxious, he also noticed the changes in the expressions of the 2 remaining wild boars. They are no longer afraid of him. "Hey, you 2 pig brothers, I was just joking with you. Now you can leave by yourselves, so as not to hurt the peace." However, as soon as he finished speaking, 2 large wild boars charged towards him menacingly. He was so frightened that he ran away with his head in his arms. But how could he outrun the wild boar now? Just when he was about to be overtaken by the wild boar, a small figure suddenly jumped out from the side. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 416. Under the night, as 2 large wild boars launched a surprise attack, the situation suddenly became extremely tense. Xiao Yuyu was even ready to be pushed away by the big wild boar. But at this moment, a small figure suddenly jumped out. Looking through the faint light, Xiao Yuyu realized that the figure that suddenly appeared turned out to be the little tiger that Yang Lin had given him earlier. In front of the 2 big wild boars, the little tiger was so small that it could barely reach the big wild boar's knees. "I'm afraid that if I step on it, I'll be trampled to pieces on the spot." Xiao Yuyu, who was almost scared to death, immediately became anxious when he saw this. "Little guy, run quickly. Why are you running out at this time?" As he spoke, he prepared to run back. In his opinion, this little tiger was given to him by Yang Lin anyway, and there must be no accidents. Not only him, but also several people from the program team in the distance were frightened when they saw this scene. Although they were not very clear about why Xiao Yuyu, who was so brave just now, suddenly seemed to be deflated. But they know very well that if this continues, 1 person and 1 tiger will all have to answer here. But now they can't do anything. It's over, Teacher Yu is probably going to be bitten by a wild boar. I hope these 2 wild boars will be gentler and save half of Teacher Yu's life. As long as he has half his life, Teacher Yang should be able to save him. The same goes for this little tiger. He ran to join in the fun at this time. Even if his parents come, he will have to stay away if he encounters a crazy wild boar. Maybe it's because I haven't seen a wild boar since I was a child. I'm done with you. Even when everyone was pessimistic, the little tiger that ran in front of the 2 wild boars suddenly opened its mouth only the size of a baby's fist and let out a milky roar. The moment the roar that could almost kill a person occurred, the 2 big wild boars that were just like small tanks suddenly stopped. 2 pairs of big eyes were staring at the little tiger in front of him, as if he had seen something terrible. Xiao Yuyu, who hurried over, also picked up the little tiger and looked at the 2 big wild boars in front of him with wary eyes. For a moment, the 3 parties looked at me and I looked at you, and they all froze in place without moving. Such a strange situation immediately made the audience in the live broadcast room full of suspicion. What happened? Why did those 2 big wild boars stop suddenly? No, maybe I was frightened by the smell of the tiger. What does it smell like? Is it milky? That is to say, the little tiger is only so small. It is not as big as our cat. I can knock it away with 1 punch. How could 2 wild boars be afraid of this little tiger? Wu Song must have fought such a big tiger back then. The intelligence of these two wild boars is probably not high, but a little tiger scared them. Why don't you, little you, take advantage of this opportunity and run away? Why are you sitting there in a daze? If you wait until the two wild boars react, they probably won't be able to run away. I'm worried for him. Perhaps after hearing the complaints from the audience, the two wild boars became a little hesitant from being cute at the beginning. There were constant low roars coming out of his mouth. Xiao Yuiyu immediately felt something bad when he saw this. No, they seemed to have reacted. After saying that, he glanced at the little tiger in his arms. Little guy, I'll put you down later, and the two of us will run separately. They should come after me then, and you'll be safe. What Xiao Yuiyu didn't expect was that when he just finished speaking, the little tiger seemed to understand what he said, with a trace of disdain in his eyes. Xiao Yuiyu didn't think much about this, and retreated while looking for opportunities. The sound was so loud that the forest nearby shook. But they wanted to leave, so how could the little tiger let them go? The two big wild boars also completely entered the violent mode, lowering their heads and charging towards the little tiger. Just because the sense of oppression brought by the little tiger is too strong. As it walked, its body returned to its normal size. Under the gaze of countless eyes, a magical scene soon happened. At this time, it was no smaller than a wild boar. However, this is not the end. Just after he took 2 steps back, he put the little tiger directly on the ground, then turned around and ran towards the left. However, out of instinct, they began to retreat continuously. Then it stretched out its front paws, which were as big as a wild boar's head, and pushed the 2 wild boars to the ground. Before leaving, I didn't forget to sprinkle tiger urine on the edge of the field. A giant tiger more than 2 meters tall and 4 meters long appeared in this sweet potato field. When he came to Xiao Yuiyu, it was still the same tiger cub that was only the size of a cat. First, it let out an earth-shattering roar, frightening the 2 wild boars so much that they urinated on the spot. He jumped onto Xiao Yuiyu's shoulder in one leap. After doing all this, the little tiger swaggered towards Xiao Yuiyu again. The 2 big wild boars weighing more than 300 kilograms were like 2 piglets in front of it. I saw that every time the little tiger took a step forward, his body became bigger. Their not-so-smart minds really couldn't figure out how the little tiger just now grew so big all of a sudden. Seeing that the 2 wild boars were easily subdued, the little tiger suddenly became more playful. He opened his mouth wide and roared again into their ears. I saw it took another step forward, and in an instant its size expanded to twice its previous size. This scene not only stunned the audience in the live broadcast room and Xiao Yuiyu and others, but also made the 2 big wild boars dumbfounded. Foam was constantly spraying from his mouth, and he fainted from shock. He originally thought that the little tiger would run in the other direction as he said. It was only then that everyone present and the audience in the live broadcast room came to their senses one after another. But what he never expected was that the moment he let go of the little tiger took steps towards the 2 big wild boars. There is no courage in their hearts to fight with it. When I was 2 meters away from the 2 wild boars, I turned into the size of an adult Siberian tiger. When the 2 wild boars, which were only a few centimeters apart, heard this roar, their bodies immediately began to twitch. Looking at 2 wild boars that were fainted from fear, the little tiger then took back his 2 front paws with a look of satisfaction. During the whole process, the 2 wild boars did not dare to resist at all. The little tiger had no intention of escaping. After letting out another milky roar, it started to move forward. At first it was only the size of a normal cheetah. Little guy, take advantage of this opportunity and run. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 417. If someone hadn't witnessed it with their own eyes, no one would think that what just happened was real. Just because it's just a little too outrageous. A tiger cub the size of a kitten transforms into a beast larger than an adult tiger in a flash. Moreover, 2 large wild boars weighing more than 300 kilograms were taken away in just a few seconds. Whoever sees this is not confused. Holy crap, please tell me, what I just saw is not real, that big tiger is my hallucination. As much as I want to say it's an illusion, it's definitely not an illusion because I saw it too. What a coincidence, I saw it too. It is impossible that hundreds of thousands of people are hallucinating, so there is only one truth, and that is that the little tiger just now really got bigger. Are you kidding me? A tiger that was not yet a month old turned into a giant tiger. It must have become a spirit. No kidding at all, the Siberian tiger I saw in the zoo was like a younger brother to him. Didn't you see that those 2 wild boars were almost scared to death? No wonder Yang Lin asks Xiao Yuyu to take this little tiger with him. It turns out it has such abilities. By the way, wasn't this little tiger picked up on the mountain before? Why did it suddenly become so capable? It goes without saying that it must have been taught by Yang Lin. A tiger can be taught like this. Sure enough, the old saying is true, one can teach a chicken or a dog to ascend to heaven. Now those wild boars should never dare to come again. While the viewers in the live broadcast room were all shocked, Xiao Yuyu, who was standing on the sweet potato ground, finally came to his senses. He looked at the little tiger on his shoulder, and then at the 2 big wild boars lying on the ground over there. It's really hard to imagine that this little guy did all this. But when he thought of how powerful it looked just now, he felt a chill on his neck. Little guy, which one is your real face? After showing a helpless smile, Xiao Yuyu walked straight towards the old couple who had been frightened. Uncle and aunt, the problem has been solved. Those wild boars should not come again in the future. Don't worry. As soon as these words came out, the old couple woke up from a dream. Without saying a word, he knelt in front of Xiao Yuyu. Thank you, Mr. Immortal. Thank you, Mr. Immortal. You really saved our lives. If it weren't for you, we don't know what we would do. Looking at the old couple who kept kowtowing, both Xiao Yuyu and the staff of the program team had very complicated expressions. It's not that I think they are exaggerating. But I think what they said is very true. In a place like this, considering their family circumstances, these acres of mountainous land are really their livelihood. It seems that Taoist priests are indeed a profession that helps the world and saves the people. It's no wonder that ordinary people put their hope in immortals and gods. After sighing, Xiao Yuyu also hurriedly helped the old couple up. Originally, they planned to keep the program team and Xiao Yuyu at their home for dinner. But in the end, Xiao Yuyu took the program team and left directly. It took almost more than an hour before they finally returned to the Taoist temple. I thought that by this time, everyone on the mountain would have disappeared. But after going up the mountain, they discovered that although it was already past 9 o'clock in the evening, the lights in the Taoist temple were still bright. Not only did some pilgrims stay, but even the program staff and several guests didn't leave either. Among these people, they also saw a familiar figure. After taking a closer look, I realized that the man was actually the eldest brother who had just arrived in the morning and was looking for relatives from thousands of miles away. Faced with the reporter's questioning, Boss Yang couldn't help but reveal a wry smile on his face. Boss Yang, can you show us your face too? After being a star for so many years, she has met many ardent fans, but she has never said that any fan can be so grateful to her from the bottom of her heart. After all, compared to the fact that Boss Yang found a lost child through a face-to-face meeting, what Hua and Xiao Yuyu did was also of great significance. If you want to thank me, don't thank me. Just thank the gods enshrined in this hall. In order to change the subject, Boss Yang quickly pulled Xiao Yuyu out of his chatterbox. As he said this, the man with the vicissitudes of life knelt down in front of Boss Yang. These things that would never happen to a top star in the past are happening one after another today. Time also passed slowly under such circumstances, but Yang Lin unexpectedly stayed behind several celebrity guests who were supposed to go down the mountain. As soon as these words came out, the reporters changed the interviewees. "If I hadn't come to you this time, I would have missed my son again." While it was an eye-opener for everyone, they were also full of expectations for the next show. In addition, there was a group of media reporters crowded inside the hall. Just when she was a little confused, the news reporter who came up next to her also took pictures of her and brother Joe in front of the statue. This sense of accomplishment from the heart is not comparable to being a star. Boss Yang, who was wearing a Taoist robe, was a little anxious when he saw this. Seeing the formation, Xiao Yuiyu and the others quickly quickened their pace. From today on, the entire entertainment industry may know that she can read faces. I'm just here to help. At the same time, what happened in the Taoist temple today and how several celebrities helped pilgrims answer their questions through what they learned from Yang Lin also appeared on the internet through various channels. Compared to being a star, what do you think of the Taoist profession? Taking photos and asking questions. Brother Joe, please don't be like this. If you can find your son this time, it means you still have a fate with him. In the future, other celebrities will inevitably ask her to have their faces read. You interview them both. Maybe I won't be able to see my son again until I die. Teacher Yang, are these what Yang Lin taught you? Reba is a psychic, Boss Yang is a fortune teller, Huahua cooks, and Xiao Yuiyu drives pigs. Those two are the real heroes. One of them helped the police solve a cold case 8 years ago, and the other helped two lonely elderly people drive away the big wild boar in the field. I really want to thank you this time. I have spent so many years and traveled so many miles, but I still can't find it. Before they even entered the hall, they heard Brother Joe's voice of thanks. At this moment, this eldest brother is leading a young man in his 20s. The young man's appearance is at least 60% similar to his. Teacher Yang, did you really help Brother Joe find his child through fortune telling this time? Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 418. There was silence in the Taoist temple late at night. The staff of the program team and the pilgrims had left early. Only Boss Yang and 6 other artists were left behind. They were also very puzzled by Yang Lin's behavior. But he could also vaguely sense that Yang Lin might have something important to tell them. What happened next was exactly as they guessed. After gathering them all into the main hall, Yang Lin looked at them seriously. Pandeo has noticed your performance in the past 2 days. Now I have something to ask you. I wonder if you are willing to follow Pandeo and officially start learning Taoism. As soon as these words came out, the faces of Boss Yang and the other 6 people standing in a row suddenly showed doubtful expressions. It was Xiao Yuiyu who spoke first. Aren't we already learning from you? Yes, I have been studying these past 2 days. Facing the confused expressions of everyone, Yang Lin immediately chuckled and said, "What Pandeo means is whether you are willing to officially worship me as your master and become my registered disciple. Formal apprenticeship." Upon hearing these 4 words, the 4 people who were still confused reacted instantly. After these 2 days of getting along, they had already developed a strong interest in cultivating Taoism. Especially after using what you learned to shine. At this moment, when I heard the words official apprenticeship, I felt an impulse in my heart. If you can really take this opportunity to officially enter the Taoist sect, it is indeed a good opportunity. Thinking of this, the 6 people immediately looked at each other and saw the movement in each other's eyes. The next second all 6 people said in unison, "We do." Okay. Since you are willing, starting from today, Pandeo will officially accept you as registered disciples. Wait until you are successful in your studies before you can officially join the school. Seeing that all 6 people agreed, Yang Lin casually took out a few things from the table beside him and distributed them to 6 people one by one. These are the apprenticeship ceremonies that Pandeo has prepared for you. This is. With a hint of curiosity, several people immediately checked what Yang Lin gave them. After a closer look, I found that the 6 people received different things. Boss Yang is holding a Ziwei Doshu and a tortoise shell in his hand. What Reba held in her hands was a book on the Emperor's Qi reading technique and a bronze mirror. What Lu Tianxian held in his hand was a purple Hao talisman pen and a book of talismans. What Hua holds in her hand is a peachwood sword and a book of the 8 great divine spells of Taoism. What Xiao Yui got was the art of inviting gods and a book of Kuixing kicking. What Kun got in the end was a 16-character Feng Shui secret book and a compass. These things were all distributed by Yang Lin based on the temperament and talents of the 6 people. The 6 people who received the apprenticeship ceremony immediately showed joy on their faces after taking a look. They don't know that these things are treasures. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. Great. Once we learn these things, we will be serious members of the Taoist section. These things are so profound that ordinary people in the Taoist sect may not have the chance to learn them. This time we have made a profit. If you really learned these things, why would you still be a star? Being a star doesn't make as much money as being a Taoist priest. It's vulgar to raise money. Makes sense. Facing the people with faces full of joy, Yang Lin also spoke again. Okay, just study these things yourself. You guys can stay in the mountain tonight. The wing next to it happens to be packed out. You can make up for the formal apprenticeship ceremony tomorrow. Hearing Yang Lin's words, several people nodded quickly. Okay, Master. After saying that, everyone went back to their respective rooms. But judging from the light coming from the wing, they won't be able to sleep for a while. Yang Lin didn't take it seriously either. He returned to his room and began to fall into trance. Transform the power of faith and karma absorbed during the day one by one. At dawn the next day, pilgrims began to arrive outside the Taoist temple one after another. Boss Yang, who had big dark circles under his eyes but was extremely energetic, walked out of their respective rooms. It can be seen from the joy on their faces that they have gained a lot this night. However, according to the rules of the Taoist temple, they still had to go around the temple to meet guests, guide the pilgrims to worship and burn incense, and answer their questions at the same time. With their new knowledge reserves, they became more and more comfortable in answering pilgrims' questions. It was hard to say before, but now there is a slight trend. It's over. The entertainment industry will lose 6 generals today. Master. My dear, this news is too exciting. Suddenly I have a little expectation. When everyone from the program team went up the mountain with their equipment, they saw the 6 people busying themselves like real Taoist priests. No, they are serious. In the shocked eyes of everyone, Yang Lin led several people to start the formal ordination ceremony. Yang Lin just nodded. After a series of complex processes, the names of the 6 people were entered into the Taoist clan, and they also received their respective pure precepts. The Taoist style is getting stronger and stronger. My dear, if all 6 of them become monks, then half of the entertainment industry will lose. All of a sudden, the audience in the live broadcast room also began to tease a few people about their performance. I suddenly had a hunch that they might not want to return to the entertainment industry. Yang Lin even gave them ring names. From today on, the 6 of them are my Taoist disciples. Please all fathers and fellow villagers be here to bear witness. Yeah, Yang Lin is just an example. If I hadn't photographed their faces just now, I almost wouldn't have recognized them. No, will they give up their celebrity status and really become Taoist priests? Being Taoist priests can actually improve their business capabilities. Boss Yang and Lu Tianxian are really going to become Taoist priests. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone in the program team who was still filming next to the main hall and the audience in the live broadcast room instantly went into an uproar. This also means that from now on there will be 6 more full-time Taoist priests in the entertainment industry. It's so funny. In other variety shows, it's about who debuts first, but in this variety show, who becomes a monk first? Not necessarily. Being a Taoist priest doesn't seem to conflict with being a star. At this moment, Yang Lin's figure appeared in the hall. If this thing really happens, don't call this program "Come On and Hit the Workers." Just call it "Brother, a Monk." It doesn't look like a joke. Seeing Yang Lin, the few people who were still busy immediately came over, and then obediently bowed to the disciples in front of everyone. Good guy, why do I feel like Boss Yang and the others really think of themselves as Taoist priests now? The next second he said to everyone present. Today Pandeo officially accepts them as disciples in front of all the fellow villagers present. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 419. With the end of a series of cumbersome rituals, the 6 celebrity artists also have new identities. However, this did not affect the filming of the program, nor the normal work of the Taoist temple. It just caused a small shock to the entertainment industry. It is conceivable that today's headlines will be dominated by several people. After the ceremony, the 6 people still presided over the affairs in the Taoist temple as before. The pilgrims also acted as if nothing had happened. Under such circumstances, a pilgrim soon made a somewhat difficult request. Taoist priest, I am Li Lao-san from Ljia village in Kushui town. It was the land master of our village who asked me to come here to find you. While kowtowing to the statue on the altar table, the farmer named Li Lao-san told everyone about his experience. After listening to his story, Boss Yang and the other 6 people immediately looked at each other. Uncle, are you telling the truth? Is the land at the east end of your village really that evil? What you sow will die. Can't even build a house. Reba said with a puzzled look. The uncle nodded repeatedly after hearing this. Yes. I planted crops in the past few years, but at the end of the year there was no harvest. It was time to raise sheep later, but the sheep all died inexplicably. Later, the village committee simply assigned it to the village to build houses. As a result, the families who built the houses had troubles one after another, including our family. The more he talked, the more excited he became. After he finished speaking, the doubts on several people's faces became more intense. What is going on? Could it be that there is radiation underground? Or there are some harmful substances down there? You can only know by going to the field and taking a look. Then who will go this time? After the 6 people looked at each other, Kunken finally took the initiative to stand up. I'll go. I think there's probably something wrong with the feng shui. There's a good chance that the land is a bad place. If it is not resolved, the problems in this area will only get bigger and bigger. After saying that, Kunken walked into his room and took out a cloth bag. Then he said to Li Lao-san and the program staff. Let's go to Ljia village now and see what's going on. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the program team immediately looked at him with admiration. Even Kunken's fans in the live broadcast room are like this. GE Pigeon is really amazing. I didn't expect to be able to read feng shui so quickly. In the future, when I introduce myself, in addition to singing and dancing rap, I can also practice feng shui. I never thought that the entertainment industry would have one more feng shui master from now on. Changing overalls into robes, Pigeon has matured. I apologize for my previous ridicule to Pigeon. I wonder how he is doing with his studies, and whether he has received Yang Lin's true teachings. Then it depends on how he performs next. While the audience was talking a lot, Kunkan also followed the program crew and took a bus to Ljia village under the leadership of Li Lao-san. It took them a full hour before they arrived outside a village. This is a small village with only a few hundred households. There are mountains on the left and right, and there is a river next to it. It can be regarded as a beautiful place. But there is a piece of land next to such a beautiful village that looks particularly weird. Other places were lush and lush, but that area was barren of grass. Those who didn't know thought it was pesticides. But when I looked closer, I realized that the ground was actually a little bit black. Kunkan picked up a handful of soil and put it in front of his nose and smelled it. Kunkan frowned. The program team saw this and hurriedly gathered around. "Teacher Kunkan, what is the problem with this land?" However, Kunkan did not answer them immediately. Instead, he took out a compass from the cloth bag on the side. With the compass in hand, the professional style immediately came up. And he himself seemed to be a different person. Holding the compass, he kept looking at different directions. Seeing that he was so serious, the program team couldn't bother him anymore. Even Kunkan's fans were moved by his dedication. Almost 10 minutes passed like this, and Kunkan suddenly put away the compass. There was also a confident expression on his face. "I kind of know what's going on here." As soon as these words came out, the staff of the program team who had been silent on the side immediately gathered around. "Teacher Kunkan, what exactly is going on? Can you tell me now? If nothing else happens, this place should be an ancient battlefield from the Warring States period." Kunkan casually distributed these farm tools to the staff present. "And the more you dig, the more you dig. Lots of bodies." But Kunkan shook his head. "Isn't that kind of place usually caused by various natural conditions? There must be at least tens of thousands of Jedi of this size." The audience who saw the scene were shocked. The staff of the program team saw this and had no choice but to join in. After explaining, he took out a hoe, found a slope and started digging. "It's acquired." Upon hearing these 4 words, everyone's expression suddenly changed. It's hard to imagine how many corpses were piled together to create such a spectacular sight. How many bodies does this large number of bodies refer to? After spending such a long time with Yang Lin, the staff of the program team obviously also understands some relevant knowledge. No need to dig, just leave it like this. Contact the archaeological team for the rest. Come. Everyone dig according to the area I have designated. What's more, judging from what's going on underneath, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Can you lend me some hose? At this moment, Kunkan also spoke to Li Lao-san. Kunkan's words undoubtedly shocked everyone. A staff member couldn't help but ask. Kunkan nodded immediately after hearing this. A pile of bones stacked one on top of another. Suddenly hearing Kunkan's request, Li Lao-san was stunned for a moment, and then quickly agreed. When they thought that they were standing on top of tens of thousands of corpses, their scalps went numb. In just 10 minutes, a pile of bones covering an area of dozens of square meters was exposed to the sun. It's like saying that there are a lot of corpses buried underground, and they can be formed after thousands of years of changes. At this moment, Kunkan threw away the hoe in his hand and turned to the staff. But it is not formed naturally in one place, but formed the day after tomorrow. Not long after, he brought a bunch of farm tools from his home. Originally they thought it would take a long time to dig, but unexpectedly they dug out something less than half a meter after following Kunkan's instructions. According to the explanation in the 16-character Feng Shui secret technique passed down to me by my master, under certain conditions, Feng Shui will be formed the day after tomorrow. I have roughly figured it out. This place is similar to what I expected before. It is a place of extreme darkness. Tens of thousands of tools. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 420. As Kunkin finished speaking, everyone in the program team and the audience in the live broadcast room were instantly in an uproar. Ancient battlefield, how can this be an ancient battlefield? It's not impossible. Over the past thousands of years, countless wars have occurred on this land, and how many people have died. It's normal for some to go unnoticed. During the spring and autumn period, there was a war between Wu and Yu at the location of Green City. Maybe these bones were left over from that time. This possibility is quite high. Judging from the number of bones, the scale of the war is definitely not small. Conditions were relatively poor at that time, and the bodies of fallen soldiers were probably just thrown away casually. No wonder this place has turned into a feng shui paradise. It turns out there are so many corpses buried underneath. Kunkin could see it at a glance. It seems that he learned something real from Yang Lin. Our pigeons have to be very perceptive. If it were anyone else, they definitely wouldn't be able to learn so quickly. While everyone was talking in the live broadcast room, the villagers of Ljia village also gathered around. When they saw the stark white bones all over the ground, their eyes were filled with horror. Many people also think of the bones and some ancient arrowheads and weapons that were dug out of the ground during work. And these further prove that this is an ancient battlefield where Wu and Yu fought during the spring and autumn period. At the same time as he suddenly realized this, Li Laosan also found Kunkin again. Taoist priest, does that mean that as long as we clean out all the bones buried here and bury them elsewhere, there will be no problem with this piece of land? However, not long after he asked this question, Kunkin's expression suddenly changed. It seemed that he noticed something again. He quickly took out the 16-character Feng Shui secret technique given to him by Yang Lin from the small cloth bag he carried with him. After carefully reading it several times, he suddenly started mumbling to himself. No, if the bones from thousands of years ago had survived to this day, it would never have made the terrain here so dangerous. It won't affect the people living here. There must be something weird about this land. As he spoke, he held the compass in front of everyone's confused eyes, and once again measured the surrounding area using his feet as a ruler. After walking more than 10 times in a row, he suddenly looked at a house next to him. There was an unprecedented seriousness in his eyes. With a trace of curiosity, he immediately called Li Laosan to his side. Uncle Li doesn't know whose house this house belongs to. Hearing Kunkin's question, Li Laosan was a little confused, but he still answered seriously. This belongs to Peng Qing's family. If I'm not wrong, their whole family should be gone. Taoist master, you are right, their family is the worst. Our other family members only have minor illnesses and pains at most, but several people died in their family in succession. The remaining 2 children are also crazy, and stupid. They don't know where they are now. Went. Taoist priest, why are you asking these questions? Faced with Li Laosan's doubts, Kunkin immediately pointed to the house and said. In addition to the bones underneath, there is also a problem with this house, and it's a big problem. What is the problem? There's something under the house, and it's dirty. This. As Kunkin finished speaking, Li Laosan suddenly didn't know why. If you don't dig out the dirt buried underneath, your entire village will suffer, let alone this piece of homestead land. Since the villagers were all watching at the moment, when Kunkin said these words, they all heard it. Immediately they started talking. I think what the Taoist priest said makes sense. If Peng Qing's family's foundation hadn't been faulty, how could their family be in such misery? I didn't see anything at 1 meter. The little wind makes people feel chilly. Oh. When Peng Qing and his family were building their house, didn't they chop down a big locust tree? Suddenly everyone in Jia village looked at each other in shock. No, I came to help them when they were building their house. I always smelled a faint odor, but I didn't know where it was. It's not that simple. Just dig it up and take a look and you'll know. Anyway, there is no one in their house now, and the house is about to collapse. Under Kunkin's guidance, the two excavators began to dig into the foundation underneath. Half an hour later, the original foundation also appeared in public view. As soon as these words came out, an old man showed an expression of surprise. The moment it appeared, an unpleasant odor quickly spread throughout the surrounding area. As the villagers discussed, things became more and more bizarre, and they soon reached an agreement that the house must be dug up and taken a look. I don't know how many years it has been lying on the ground, but it is still as bright as new. My grandfather said that there used to be a big locust tree where it was buried. The originally yellow soil turned into black mud. Everyone present quickly covered their mouths and noses, fearing that the smell was poisonous. With the help of the villagers, two young men soon arrived with two excavators. It wasn't until the depth of the pit reached 5 meters that a clue finally appeared. When I said that, I suddenly remembered something. There was a flood about 80 years ago. My grandfather said that there was a coffin floating in the flood. The contents of the house were also moved aside by the villagers. I don't remember any of our ancestors being buried here. Why in God's name is there a coffin here? I still remember that our dog always barked at that time, but it stopped barking every time we passed by their house in Pengcheng. The masonry house was quickly demolished with a rumbling sound. And underneath the black mud, there was a bright red lacquered wood coffin. At this time, Kunkin also issued the order to open the coffin. The two of them worked one after another to demolish the house in front of them that was about to collapse. And the excavation work officially began. How could our ancestors afford such a good coffin at that time? We have to dig it up and take a look, otherwise our whole village may really suffer along with it. Then what is buried under their house? It's still the same at 2 meters. You guys said that, and I also remembered a strange thing. Every summer, other people's homes are extremely hot, and it's like their homes have air conditioners on. In that case, the coffin was actually buried here. When the people in the village saw that the coffin was unclaimed, they found a random place and buried it okay.